We are recording the interview of Donald Hudson. This interview is being conducted by Erica Carter from the Wright State University Veterans Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Wright State University in the New Media Incubator. It is 11:48 a.m. on June 29th, 2018. Hi, Donald.
Hi.
How are you today?
Not too bad.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, you're quite welcome.
Okay. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Middletown in 1948. I started out life as a child. I was born very young.
Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
Well, my dad's name was Orville. He worked at the Armco Steel Corporation in Middletown. And my mom was just a homemaker, I guess you could say. Let me get this right now. Mary Magdalene was her name. It's tough for me to stay up with that. When I was about 12, she died of lupus. And so my dad remarried, and so then I have a stepmother. So that's how that went.
Any siblings, brothers, sisters?
I have a brother that's older than I am. He got married a little early, and in that area, apparently Ohio has a lot of people that are saying, put me in, coach. When the Vietnam War came along, so he was never drafted, and they changed his status because he was married and he had a child. So enough of us joined the Army and the Navy and whatever, and everybody was making their quotas, so there was no need in our area to draft anyone. So, no, he didn't serve, but I did, and it was a privilege and an honor.
Okay. What were you doing before you entered the service?
Actually, after graduation from high school, I badgered the company, Armco, to give me a job, but they, realizing that I'm prime beef to be going to the war, I had to keep going back. Fortunately, I lived close enough I could walk from my house to the employment office for Armco. And every 3 days, and say, well, you got anything yet? And say, well, and then finally, 2 months goes by or so. And they say, oh, well, we lost your paperwork. You got to fill it out again. Well, my dad, who worked there, had worked with a guy named Joe Jividen in Labor Reserve for a while. They knew each other, and Joe had moved up the chain, I guess you could say. So I walked over to his office and said, oh, hey, Don, how you doing? Oh, what's that? I'm filling out some paperwork. They lost it. Well, what do you mean? Well, I've been coming for the last 2 months and looking for a job to fill out the paperwork. He said, just a minute. So he picked up the phone and called over there and said, let's find something for this boy to do. Who? And he gave him the name and oh yeah, here it is. It's over here. We kind of, yeah, we got it. Well, he'll be over in a few minutes. Let's continue on and find something for him to do. So I stayed there for about a year, and I knew I was going to get drafted anyway. So I said, I don't want to be running through the jungle shooting people. That's just not the kind of guy I am. I'm going to learn how, because I'm joining the Marine Corps. Like any other vet who's been in the Army or Marine Corps, and I guess the others too, you're a trained killer. That's what your purpose in life is, to defend the nation against all its enemies, foreign and domestic. So, having been there for a year, I belong to the Union, and federal law so stated that if you've been there for this many months and you go join the military, they must give you back your job. So I joined for 4 and learned to be an ejection seat mechanic. And
okay, let's go back.
Okay.
Where did you go to basic? And how long was it?
Well, that's another interesting part. Because we're on this side, Middletown, Ohio is on the east side of the Mississippi River. Standard procedure would be to send you to Parris Island. I didn't really want to go to Parris Island with the gators and the mosquitoes and bad place. So the recruiter made the statement, since you're joining for 4, you can choose send me to San Diego. I want to go to California. He said, no problem. Well, in the Corps, there's some little bit of rivalry there. If you go to San Diego, they call you a Hollywood Marine. So I'm a Hollywood. The difference being that instead of the swamps, I'm running up and down mountains in full field pack and weapons and whatever, learning how to be a grunt. And they teach long-range shooting in the Marine Corps, big time. It's just not like it is today, where you would have an M4 with a scope on it. And we had M14s with peep sights, and we learned to shoot 500 yards with peep sights. And they had half a man as though he was leaning out of a rock or whatever to shoot you, and then you had to put the peep sights on him at 500 yards. The front sight blade would block him out and hit your targets. And well, as I explained and showed you my card, my draft card, that my eyesight isn't the greatest. So when we finally got to that point, I screwed up and I fired on the target next to mine, thinking that it was my target. So the Marine next to me got the point, and I ended up with the sharpshooter's badge instead of expert, even with rotten eyesight. That's how well they teach you how to do that. Long-range shooting has been something that the Marines do for a long time. This is why they won the Battle of Belleau Wood in World War I, and how we got the name Devil Dogs, because the German commander just could not believe that there were people that could do this and just keep coming and shoot through the woods at great distance, just find the spot between the trees, and the bullets go right through the helmets. Not a problem.
Are there any specific drill instructors that you remember or anything?
Well, my platoon number was 1052. There was a gunnery sergeant in charge whose name I forgot on purpose. He had a slight problem. He couldn't discern between abuse and discipline. I think he's just been doing it too long. But there was a staff sergeant, Telez, who apparently had been out of drill instructor school for maybe a year or so, and he was very good at what he did. He understood the difference. We're here to teach these people, not abuse them. So his name I purposely remembered. But it was usual Marine Corps boot camp. It's not like anything else you've ever experienced. No matter what you do, it's wrong. No matter how many times you try to do it, it's wrong. And you know you're doing it right. But the reason they're screaming in your ear and putting your face in the dirt and all that stuff, and PT forever, they're trying to see just how bad do you want to be a Marine, and can you handle stress? If they break you in boot camp, you're not going to make it in combat. And they know that. So that's the reason they put the stress on you that they do. So when they're finished with you and you've done all the things you're supposed to do, you can fire your weapon, and you know what, we were blowing up Claymore mines and at Camp Pendleton. 106 recoilless rifles, M60 machine guns. You're crawling underneath the barbed wire, cradling your M14, and they have explosions going off next to you as if an artillery barrage to lift you off the ground about that far. You kind of get, this is the Marine Corps, and this is what's expected of you. If you happen to be, no matter if you're a truck driver, a cook, doesn't matter. You are an infantry person first. You're a rifleman first thing. You know how to do this. Don't forget it. You might need it. Yeah, excuse me?
Why the Marines?
Why the Marines? Well, I didn't realize how bad my eyesight was at the time. So I stumbled into the Army recruiter and said, you know, I really would like to fly helicopters. He said, we really would like to have you. Here, take these tests. And I went and did that. And he said, son, there's no way you're going to fly a helicopter. Your eyes are just too bad. It's just not going to happen for you. You passed all the other stuff, you know. You're intelligent enough, and you got the mechanical skills and whatever. Could I work on them? Can't even do that because on the larger helicopters, they have a crew member, sometimes 2 or 3, hanging out, looking at the blades and whatever, talking to the pilot because he can't see everything, or she, and it's he's relying on these people to keep everybody safe. So you have to have eyesight that you can see if these blades are going to hit something or whatever, and he's relying on you. And we take these people from the mechanics. So if you're a rotary mechanic and they decide that, you know, they need somebody for a flight crew, you know, that's not going to work because you just can't see. At arm's length, you're great, but distance, sorry, you can't do it. So I find out that the Marine Corps said, yeah, we can guarantee you a field in aviation. Can I work on helicopters? No, you can't work on helicopters for the same reason I just explained. I said, well, what can I do? And said, well, I took a bunch of tests and said, we'll find something suited just for you because we have psychological tests as well as intelligence and whatever. So through the course of time, whatever, I find out when I'm graduating from the infantry school, oh, you're going to work on ejection seats. Okay. Really? Yes. You'll be going to NAS Memphis, Tennessee, and they'll send you through a whole bunch of schools as if you were to be on a carrier, which means you'll be up very high and you'll have to jump off and hit the water and not break your legs and all that kind of stuff. And oh boy, this sounded like fun. So,
are you being sarcastic or were you excited?
Well, both.
Okay.
I'm an adventurer. You know, I want to know what's over the next hill and whatever. And I knew this would be an adventure. And I told myself, if I can do this, I can do anything. Because I knew the Corps was going to be the toughest of the bunch. So I just sucked it up and did it. And I was able to do more than I thought possible. You know, that, yes, you can do this. So they went through all that training as if you were on a carrier.
I have a question. Is it like airborne training? Is it like the equivalent of that?
Well, they put me in a harness after I climbed up. I don't even know how it was big. If you can imagine a hangar that's huge, and then they got a pool in it. And then they would swing you out and yank a lanyard. Now, you could be in this position or upside down. They didn't care. They yank it. Now it's up to you to right yourself, to cross your legs, bend your knees, grab a hold, and wait to hit the water. And you keep saying to yourself, am I ever going to hit that water? It's forever. And I did, finally. And then you go under, and then you fight your way to the top, and then you swim to the side. Yep, he's good. You know, if he goes overboard, whatever, if he has to eject, whatever the case might be, he's good.
What number school is it? So we're basic training, we're finished, we're trained.
Well, we're now in Memphis going through different schools. They're training you on how to observe aircraft or ships or whatever.
How many schools did you go to?
I'm sorry?
How many schools did you go to?
It's on my SRB, but
That's okay, you know.
they would. It's kind of a basic thing. First of all, you had to get past being able to swim and drown proof. Now, if you've ever drown proofed, have you ever done that? Where
Sure.
Okay. Well, they have an aluminum M14, so they don't give you the real deal. You'll screw it up. And you put sneakers on and full clothes, and they put this thing on you, and they tell you to jump in the water, and you just kind of float. The back of your back is about above the water, but the rest of you is kind of hanging there loose and limp. And then you kick your feet, push your arms, go straight up, and go back down again. And for half an hour, you drown proof. And so if you should happen to fall off or get blown off the flight deck, and nobody sees it happen because the jet wash will do that. They've got places that'll catch you, but if the wind is just right and the plane turns, the jet wash will, you're gone. And you got to prepare yourself to hit the water and not get screwed up, and oh, please God, no sharks. And do that. And someone possibly should notice because there's a guy missing who's doing something and he's not there anymore. And there's a helicopter already flying around when they do operations, and they shoot them off, and they're using the traps. He's up there anyway, just because they do have problems, wrecks, whatever. When someone calls the ball that they're not quite on the glide path, either they bolter and have to go around again, or they slam into the end of it, or they whatever. So they got chopper up there with a PJ, which is a parajumper, who's a medic and also is a very good swimmer, and they just jump out of the water and go after them. Very brave individuals. They're in the Navy. Though they teach you all that first. Okay, you can physically do this, and then they switch you over to a room with a very small amount of light to get your night vision. And you sit there, they say close your eyes for 10 minutes, and you sit there, and the whole room's painted flat black, the whole room. And then you open your eyes when they tell you to with a loudspeaker, and then in the dark, you've got places that you got to scratch and write down what you see. Well, way up in the front, they have silhouettes. It's amazing. And then they tell you, don't look directly at them, look beside them. Your peripheral vision in the dark works better than if you're looking right at it. And they, oh, well, that's an A4, that's a F4, that's a frigate. Oh, that's a carrier, and you're scratching this down in the dark, hoping you can read it. But they prove to you that if you're on night watch or whatever, or you see something, even when you're looking through the gauntlet, that if you look beside it, you get a better picture. Okay, we go through that. They give us rundown on be careful when you're going through the ship, because there's knee knockers all over the place. You have to learn how the ship is oriented, what deck you're on, if you're forward, if you're aft, whatever the case may be, so that you have a good idea in your head. So even though you're a Marine, you're trained to go do what you got to do. If you're in aviation, they take it another step farther. They've got the time. They've got 4 years of your life that they can train you and then deploy you. Then we finally got to, I think the school for the ejection seats was pretty long, months and months. They would explain the difference between the Martin Baker seats that are made in England and designed. We do make them here under license. And then they showed us the escape pack system for McDonnell Douglas aircraft, who was bought by Boeing, that was very successful. And looking at the two, it appeared to me that Yankee Ingenuity won today because it was lighter in weight, it was simpler, it wasn't over-engineered, and the sucker worked quite well. But it's an ejection seat. You gotta be careful with them. They have explosive devices on them. They have canisters with, let's see now, they use water pump nitrogen. Now, when I say that to people, they say, what the heck are you? That means the pumps that pumped the nitrogen into the bottle were lubricated with water, so there's no contamination. I said, oh, okay, well that's on the seat too, just like the one behind you that you're sitting in the aircraft. They call it a pneumatic bungee. It has another same thing, only it's bigger. You can imagine a coffee can inside a coffee can, and then you've got a plunger, so when you raise the canopy and lower it, this thing is in the back. When you eject and you grab the handles and pull them down, it blows that first, and then you go, you're not sitting straight up. The bulkhead is a little cantered for a reason. It blows you backwards up the rails. There's actually wheels on the ejection seat, and you're inside of rails on either side, so you go straight up and out. And the reason have this gas is to inflate the bladders. You can imagine what an accordion looks like. Same concept. You're sitting on one that's made out of rubber, and it's about so big, and it inflates, and there's one behind you, behind the seat, behind the parachute, that also inflates, and they do it fast. Boom, and it pushes you out of the seat. Well, your ripcord is attached to the seat. So as you leave the seat, it pulls the ripcord off in the back. It's like this, and then it opens up. And then the drogue chute, which is basically a very strong spring that has a parachute on it, pops out and catches the wind. Well, somebody got to thinking and said, you know, if we went one step farther, we could put a ballistic spreader that's about that big, and all around the outside there were brass pieces that were connected to the parachute, and the detonator was in the middle, so the parachute cord is coming up is about that much shorter than all the rest of them. So as it pulls out, naturally the one on this, you run out, it detonates, and boom, you now have a full parachute. You don't have to wait for the air to inflate it. So you're oscillating your way back down. Literally, you could be going nowhere, sitting on the deck, no speed, no altitude, nothing. Something goes wrong. Engine blows up, or you're taking fire, and like on the Oriskany or whatever, where they had a problem with fire and explosions and whatever, you could eject, and boom, and at most you might sprain your ankle. So it was very sophisticated, and they had to work just right. You can't, there's no if, and, or but. It's either right or it's wrong. So I took it personally, as if I was in that seat. And now that I'm through all that training, and I find out that the top 3 Marines get another stripe, so now I'm a Lance Corporal, and they hand me the paperwork and say, where do you want to go? Hey man, I'm gonna go to Nam. That's where the action is. Yeah, put me at Nam. And so the guy just handed it to me, and I'm going through the paperwork, and I said, Gunny, there's nothing here for Da Nang, Chu Lai. I can't even get on a carrier. What's up with this? He said, well, 2 weeks ago, when that graduating class, was handed the same thing I just handed you, there were openings. So what do Marines do? They go toward the sound of the guns. So all of those openings were taken 2 weeks ago. This is what you got. I did all this, went through all this with the desire to go serve my country in a war zone, and you're telling me I can't go. That's exactly what I'm telling you. That's the list. Pick one. We ain't got all day. Being the adventurous that I am, being from Middletown, Ohio, I said, well, send me to Yuma, Arizona. That looks like a place that that would be a real challenge out there in the desert. and it's close to California. So that's where I went. Now, when I get there, I see guys that are PFCs that's been there for 6, 8 months. I walk in as a Lance Corporal.
Can you give me the E rank there?
I'm sorry, dear?
Were you an E4 as a Lance Corporal in the Marines?
That would be E3.
Okay, and a PFC is an E2?
E2.
Okay.
And let's see, now, a private first class would be an E2, a Lance Corporal would be an E3, Corporal would be E4.
Sergeant.
And then Sergeant would be E5. That, it's pretty standard that way. Took forever to make Corporal. But anyway, the guy in charge of the shop said, "Oh, we got a hotshot showing up." I just paid attention. I mean, what do you mean hotshot? I mean, it's just the way it went.
What year is it?
It is now, let's see, I joined in July of '68. This would make it around October of '69.
A lot of training.
Yeah, somewhere in that area.
This is your first duty station.
Yeah, first duty station, only duty station. And I wondered about that too. I couldn't understand why they're not sending me there, because now a little bit of time goes by, I'm trained and whatever. Well, this was during the time after the '68 Tet offensive. And that's when McNamara decided we need to get out of this thing somehow. And they actually weren't sending as many people over to the war zone that they used to. They were actually sending people back. And the people who work on ejection seats are far and few between. It's a very, very specialized MOS. Doesn't matter if it's Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, doesn't matter. Very specialized. So that's why there were no openings, because they just need a few guys. You can't test an ejection seat. It works one time. Consequently, you have to be very careful when you pull this seat and look at everything. Is it within specs? Has the manufacturer outdated it? Because there's an expiration date on a lot of this explosive stuff and whatever. And there's a 3-stage solid fuel rocket on the back of this thing, and you have to stand on the seat, lean over top of this rocket to disassemble the mechanism that makes it go boom without killing yourself. And then once that's done, they can take it into the hangar and do whatever they need to do, and it's safe. Nobody's gonna, go blowing through the ceiling. And then when they pull it back out, when they're done, you get another call. Okay, I'll go arm the seat. You're standing over it again, and if the thing goes off, it's gonna take your head off. And put it all back together again, both times not dropping anything, because you're behind the seat and it's cantered slightly. If you drop something and it's not a ferrous material, it means you can't use a magnet, because we had extendable magnets and we had little extendable mirrors that we could get down and fish it out. You would actually have to start over again, take the canopy back off, take the seat back out, find whatever it was that you dropped, and nobody's happy about it. But if you don't do that, when these jet jockeys are up there turn and burn and flipping around, and he wants to do a split S, and he'll turn upside down, and he looks up at his canopy and he sees a nut or whatever it was, and why is that on my canopy? He can reach up there and pick it up and say, we'll have a talk about this, unzip and stick it in, and then he's already upside down, so he'll go ahead and go the other direction. That's what they call a split S, that you suddenly can go the other way. And that's when you hear about it. Who's the last guy to work on this plane? Where does this go? Okay. So you have to be very careful with that. And they will send us every 6 months to El Toro, which is no longer in existence, where we would have a 3-day school where staff sergeants, gunnery sergeants, whatever, would explain to us, these are the changes for this seat. It's no longer the escape pack A1A, it's now the A1B, and the method of ejection is slightly different. This is how it works. And you got book work, and then you physically see it. Okay, now this is how we take it apart, and this is what we look for, and okay, now it's your turn, you do it. And you had to satisfy them that, yeah, I can do this, you know, it is correct, and I'm not going to blow myself up, and you know, and it will function when it needs to. So while I was in Yuma for the rest of my tour, that's what I did. And somebody happened to mention, I'm thinking it was one of the Nuggets. Now we call them Nuggets because they were lieutenants who were learning how to fly A4 Skyhawks. Made the statement that, you know, we've got two-seaters out there, and we sit in the front, the instructor sits in the back, and we learn how to fly, and then they put us in the one-seaters, and then we go out and drop the bombs and do the gun runs and do the chase and all that stuff. The people that work on these seats and pack the parachutes and stuff, you know, do they fly? Oh no, they stay on the ground. So they don't have any skin in the game then. You're telling me if something goes wrong, you know, our butts are on the line. Well, yeah. So the CO said, well, we can fix that pretty quick. We'll send them back to El Toro, and they'll get a back seat license. And they put you through a pressure chamber. You've got your helmet on and your mask, and you're plugged in, and you got a button you can push so you can talk to the doctor who's outside the pressure chamber. You've got corpsmen that are inside just in case. And you go up to about 40,000 feet if you were in the chamber, because you can feel the air pressure getting less and less and less, and the pressure inside your mask getting more and more and more, and your whole body feels like it's trying to inflate, because there's just, you know, we have 14 psi at sea level. That's not the way it is up there. So you literally, if they went around this Quonset hut that you're in, that they've adapted, they're all in seats and whatever. Tell us your name and your rank and your squadron. So I'm hearing on my headsets, what the heck? As I go around, every one of them doing the same thing. I said, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then my turn come, and I'm going, as soon as you opened your mouth, it jammed it down your lungs, because there's not enough pressure outside. You know, it's less. They have to increase that pressure. Now, how these guys do this and fly and be able to talk on the radio and tell them anything is beyond me, because I just experienced it. So I've been through that. And then they put me in a seat, which they simulated injection. They're going to blast you up these rails. And so here again, they put your helmet on and your mask, and they plug you in, and they strap you all in, and okay. And you hear this boom. And for me, I remember sitting there waiting for the boom. I hear the boom, and then I remember slowing down up here, it's about 3 stories up, and you're slowing down. I don't remember anything in the middle. That's how fast it happens. It's so quick, it's unbelievable. So then they put us back in the water. And okay, now if you have to ditch, you know, you've got your flight suit on and your sneakers, because if you've got boots on, you're going to ruin them. Okay, now we're going to swing you out. And say, well, oh, this looks familiar. And you hit, and then you got to swim. And there's this little, they've already inflated the boat for you, a little tiny boat that paddles it's in the seat pan. That's what you use. And there's a trick to it. You have to be able to reach up from the water, pull it down, and roll into it. I saw guys fight that thing for quite a while. And the people that were already in the water, that were there for safety, would actually have to push him away and say, "This is how you do it, you knothead," and pull it down, roll into it, and now you're on it, grab the paddle, go toward the end. Okay, we're now, okay, you're good. So that's done. Basically, I had a backseat license, and my name was on it, whatever, and it's on my record, and whatever, and there I'm standing, and they've got the two-seater. They just put it back together again. Somebody's got to go fly it, check it out, make sure everything works. And that's when I see the gunny, who's in charge of our shop, walking out in full flight gear. The Marine Corps doesn't issue flight gear to these people. He's been there for 20 years, and he's accumulated this and accumulated that, and over time, and he had everything he needed. Gunny? Yeah. You flying? Yeah. How come I can't fly? Because you don't have the gear. They don't issue it. Well, how'd you get it? Yeah, rank has its privileges. Yeah, but I just went through all this so I could fly in the back seat of this plane. Can I borrow your stuff? Nope, I don't loan it out. Sorry. Have a nice day. And he walks on out with the pilot. So I just went through all of this because somebody complained, and I can't fly because they don't issue the equipment. You have to accumulate it over time on your own. If you've got it, great, you know, you're on their list. And they would switch around because there were a lot of guys that had been there a long time that would do that. So it was his turn. I never got mine. What are you gonna do? So I've had some of the experiences that the pilots have had, and for every now and then the instructors who were captains or majors or whatever, they would tell stories of how be flying over Haiphong Harbor or Hanoi or whatever, and big white telephone poles going right, and he said the pucker factor goes up like you wouldn't believe. Get your attention right now. So they impart this information at the officers club to the nuggets. You know, you can see the eyes get bigger and whatever. I'm going to do what? So anyway, pretty much that's where we were. We did have a few incidents. Here again, they have they've finally got over to the single seat planes. We'll have a picture of it somewhere. The mission was called the Sortie, another French name that stuck from World War I. It was Chase. Now, they like to call it Fox and the Hound. So these two guys would launch and go over a bombing area. They had this much time to go do what they needed to do at this altitude. Everybody knows because this bombing range is huge, and the Air Force uses it, the Navy uses it, the Marine Corps uses it. So basically, they're flying this way, and the Fox says, "Okay, I'm time for you to chase me," and he has to count to 10, and then he'll peel off. He's got to keep a missile lock for 30 seconds. And it's kind of a situation where honesty is the one you're looking for. So actually, the guy in front is doing all kinds of things he can think of, while the guy's got active radar, trying to keep that missile lock. He gets the tone in his headsets, and he can see him on his radar. So suddenly he'll be doing it, or he'll do a split S, and oh no, I got to chase him some more. Well, in the springtime, in Yuma, we didn't get rain, but we did get clouds. Beautiful clouds at sunset, breathtaking from as far as you could see. Well, this is 2 in the afternoon. We got some cumulus clouds up there, no rain, but so the Fox decides, well, I'm just going to go through this one cloud here, and maybe I'll disappear, but the radar is still picking him up. So he does, and the guy's right on him. And the NATO's flight manual indicates, as far as I can remember, if you lose sight of the plane you're chasing for 10 seconds, You have to call him on the radio. I can't see you. Break off. We'll rendezvous at a predetermined altitude, predetermined vector, and we'll start over again. Well, the guy in the back was just getting ready to hit that button to call him. Now they're in the clouds. All this is happening in a matter of seconds. Well, the back end of the front plane came up and hit the front end of his plane. Okay? It was kind of at an angle. So the in-flight refueling probe broke off, and the nose of the plane broke off, and he just spotted his engine. Now, foreign object damage going through a jet engine is bad juju. So he's got smoke coming out, and the guy in the front, the rear ailerons were working, but now he's on a secondary hydraulic system. It just, oh no, I got to switch over. About a minute passes by, and they're reaching for, do I eject, do I eject, do I eject, and they're still flying. So he calls his buddy and, can you control the plane? Yeah. You control yours? Yeah. If we eject, I'm not even sure how much the millions of dollars these planes cost. We're already in trouble. If we don't fly these suckers back, we'll be lieutenants for the next 6 years. So they switched to squawk and called the tower, and they confirmed the emergency. The guy with the smoking engine lands first. Everything comes down, the wheels come down, they're fine, they land okay, and you can see where some damage was done to the front, and this guy's got damage done to the back, but they make it okay. And they land and whatever, and crash crews right on them. And when with the smoke coming out the back, they're on it with the foam, stick it right in the intake, and you got foam coming out the back. So they know for a fact nothing's going to catch fire, nothing's going to blow up, we're good. And by that time, they were on the ground maybe 3 minutes. The CO was already out there with the XO on the ground support vehicle. We call them tugs. They're yellow and they're square and they're really low. You can go underneath wings and stuff. Already out there. And they had one of the red ladders that you had to have to get up to, picking it up and shoving it in the plane. And they knew they were in trouble anyway. So they go ahead and release themselves and whatever and get out and climb down. And the CO wanted to just eat them alive, but there's crash crew people standing around, and there's all the people from our squadron coming to tow the aircraft. You have to have a tow bar and a tug and whatever, they're coming. And he said, now's not the time, and this is not the place. You jump on this thing, we're going back to my office, So on they go, and they disappeared. And the guys that were upstairs working the typewriters could hear him screaming down the hallway, like, oh boy, these guys are getting it. So it goes on your record for as long as you're in the Corps that you had a mid-air collision, but you flew it back. You didn't eject. So it was a bad thing, but it was a good thing also, because they flew them back. Now they were following the manual, as they said, about the time he was going to push that button. So that's the way that went. So we did have some instances like that. Things do happen. That's the way the world is.
Do you keep in contact with anybody from your unit?
I have a list of jarheads that I call on November 10th, and we get caught up. They're all over the United States. Some have, one of them joined the Air Force after he got out. I think, I kind of lost track of the guy who was in my squadron. He went to embassy duty. I'm still looking for him, can't quite find him. There's even a Navy corpsman that I call, and it's a Marine Corps birthday. Yeah, I know it, but I haven't talked to you for a while. Okay. So yeah, I've got a list, and I just sit down, and when I call, they know it's November 10th, and happy birthday. Okay, and then we get caught up. So some of them were in my squadron. One of the photographs that I showed you has a guy's head about here. His name's David Vick. He was in another squadron, but he joined with me.
You have it? You can show us. If you have it.
I'm not sure if I put it back in here or not. Okay, where did I put that? How are we doing on time? Oh, this is when I fresh out of school. I came home for Christmas, and Mom said, "Take your picture, take your picture." Okay, Mom. So that's it.
You look the same.
I wasn't always this old and ugly. Here we go. We were at Camp Pendleton in one of those machines that they used to have where you'd throw some quarters in and you'd get in the little box and pull the curtain. Well, they had one, and we said, "Well, what the heck," you know. So we did this, and we're both privates. We had finished our training. We were in casual company. Why, I don't know, but this is what we did. And I stumbled onto this too and said, "Whoa, is that really me?" Well, this other gentleman is David Vick. He's from Middletown, and he joined the Corps with me. And about the time when we finally made it to NAS Memphis, that's when he went to a engine school, and I think he ended up in Squadron VMA 311, something like that. And we still stay in touch. He's in Minnesota now, I believe. That's where most of his family is. He stayed with the aviation situation. He went to Embry-Riddle University and got his degree, and he's been working on airplanes for different companies ever since, and retired from it. Since I had a job waiting for me at the steel mill, I just went back and had 5 years seniority, which was great. So, yeah, pretty much.
And did you retire from that job?
Yes, 38 years total, along with the other time I spent in service. That goes in there too. Basically, wow, what else is there?
How did you adjust back to civilian life?
I guess that would depend on your perspective. Probably not well, because I had to shave every day, and they wanted to make sure that, you know, you had military creases and it was all clean, and you had to take these small scissors and clip all the little pieces that were, you know, so that you looked presentable as a Marine, which was tough, because I worked for a living. You're crawling into, out of, underneath, you know, and there were other units that didn't do that. And usually the lieutenants had, you know, great uniforms. You know, they don't work for a living. And I worked with liquid oxygen that the pilot would breathe. You had to wear a face mask and a big rubber apron that went down to your ankles, and you had LOX boots. Now, the LOX boots didn't have any thread, you know, they had elastic on either side where your ankles are, nothing else. You slipped them on, steel-toed. When they hand them to you, they say, "Don't polish these boots." That was a stunning statement, quite profound. When you talk to a Marine and they hand you the boots and say, "Don't polish these boots." Whoa, you guys were serious, because I saw the film when I was in training. They had liquid oxygen up here, about the same distance where you would pump it up the aircraft, and they were backed up. They had about 3 layers of, on the, you know, polished, looking great, shiny. Pulled the string and it went like this, and liquid oxygen hit the toe of that boot and exploded. And you just peeled that leather back, You could see the steel toe, and it's kind of like, imagine what that would do to your foot if you happen to spill just a little bit and your foot, it hits your foot, boom, instantly. Don't polish these boots. Thank you. So since I was the one that was doing that, I would wear them to the squadron and back. Well, I didn't have a bike, a motorcycle at the time, so I'm walking along the road to the chow hall. I'm guessing it's about a quarter mile or something like that. Just talking to the other guy. When the cars go by, they have the stickers on it. They're officers. Well, you snap attention and salute and go on your way. Several times, these shaved-tail Louis would slam the brakes on, back up, pull it in front of us, get out, and he's this close to my nose, telling me what a scumbag I am and whatever. And, yes, sir, okay, yes, sir. Where are you from? VMAT 102, the hangar, last one on the, who's your commanding officer? Colonel Cooney. I'm going to call him. Well, yes, sir, I understand that. Okay, and, what's your name? And writes it all down. So he leaves. I go ahead and get something to eat. Don't give it a second thought, and come on back, because it's don't polish these boots. Well, this guy wasn't an aviator. He was a what they call it, a missile battalion, where it's land to air, where you're shooting down planes and stuff. He had no concept of what it's like to be in an aviation situation, and he spit and polished. We worked for a living. So when I get back, the gunny says, "Did you ever talk to an officer?" Yeah, gunny. Well, he called the CO. Oh, yeah, really? The CO basically told him, "This guy works for me, not for you. You call me again, you'll be a lieutenant forever. If there's something that needs to be done, or for discipline or whatever, I'll take care of it. It works for me." This is a lieutenant colonel is talking to this second lieutenant. And oh, by the way, he's not supposed to polish those boots. What are you talking about? Look into it yourself. He's doing his job. Don't do this again. Hang it up, and then that's the end of it. I didn't get hassled. I mean, nobody bothered me. I mean, it was even to the point where I'm a sergeant now, and I tell the lance corporals, go pull that seat, bring it here to the air conditioning, and set it right there. It's mine. Just set it right there. And I would get in the zone looking at things, and you had pieces of cardboard, okay, check this, whatever. And the CO walks in to our shop. Well, everybody that is there that's not on a call, snaps to attention and whatever, and there's the guy, and there stands the CO, and I'm doing this, I don't even know he's in the room. And nobody said anything. So I find out later, he leaned over to the gunny and said, is he always like that? And I said, yeah, he's in the zone, man. That's what he does. That's his thing. Oh, good. Have a nice day. And walked out. And the gunny was a little upset, but that's what he relayed to me. The guy in charge was really happy I was spending this much time and effort to make sure this seat, when it left my possession, was as possibly new as I could make it, whether it was painted or change this, change that, whatever it may be. That's pretty much the way it was. And if there's any questions of any kind, nobody got in my face and hollered at me except the people that were not in aviation, because it happened again.
Oh my.
Another shaved-tail Louis a few months later, because there's this unwritten law in the Marine Corps: you don't walk around with your hands in your pockets.
I think that's every branch.
Yeah, everybody does it, but it's not. There's no regulation of any kind. It's just in their perception, you're sliming down the street with your hands in your pockets. You're not walking in a military manner. So 30-day wonder shows up. Same thing. And the guy gets the call. Same way. Why don't you buy a motorcycle or something? He said, I thought you were saving for one. He said, Gunny, one more month and I'll have what I need. I can go put the down payment and I'll have the bike and we'll solve this problem. He said, I hope so. I'm getting tired of the old man calling me.
What were some life lessons you learned from your military
Life
service,
lessons.
if any?
Never give up. You can do things that you didn't think you could. Have compassion for others because they may be going through things that you're not and you're not aware of it. So pay attention. Above all, pay attention. How can I put this? Camaraderie, because I can see a Marine that I don't know, total stranger. He's wearing something like this, or a hat, cover. And we're saying, "Semper Fi, dude," and shake hands, slap each other on the back, how you doing? Hoorah! Total strangers. And then we go part company. It doesn't matter if it's a man, woman, doesn't matter. It's just something that you have when you're in the Corps. And I've talked to other people who were in other branches of the service. That doesn't seem to happen as frequently. They just see that Eagle globe and anchor and say, ooh, there's one of us.
Are you a part of any military organizations since your exit?
No, pretty much. I'm not sure how to put this, but when I got out and made it home, I went back to work, and it's an old nasty steel mill. I decided I wasn't going to get a haircut or shave for 1 year. And I got out in July 24th, I believe it was, in '72. So on July 24th, '73, I looked like a wild man with just, with a stick sticking in your hair and whatever. And there was a show called Grizzly Adams at the time, and that's pretty much, if you can imagine, well, okay, I think it's time to get rid of this junk. I've had enough. I've done it, whatever. And shaved it all off, and got back to being a normal human being. As far as being part of anything else, no, I really didn't. I guess I just wanted to get on with life, and I did this, and I'm proud of my service, and I'm glad I did it. I wasn't running through the woods shooting people, and I'm doing this, and I have 5 years seniority, so that means pretty soon I should be able to get a job in maintenance, which means I have to go through a maintenance school. Basically, by the time they get done with you, you have an associate degree in engineering. They teach you all about hydraulics, pneumatics, mechanics, and electricity, and how they all fit together and function and work. So if something blows up or breaks down, you're the one who gets in the slime or whatever and tears it all back apart and puts it together again and gets the new parts and that kind of a thing. I enjoyed that because it was a challenge. So no organizations.
Is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed in this interview that you want to add?
Well, for me, I didn't go through a lot of traumatic things that a lot of military people went through. And at least today, from what I understand, that the suicide rate is kind of high. The picture I showed you of David Vick, his father was in the Marines in the South Pacific fighting the Japs. And when he came back, he had a lot of demons, and he fought them for a long time. While Dave was in the Marine Corps. He'd been there, I think, 2.5 years or so. His father blew his brains out. He tried hard to beat the demons, but they won. So it's kind of personal, and we're losing too many people that said, put me in, coach, volunteered to protect the rest of us, because we won't have a country unless there's someone willing to fight for it. And some of these people pay one heck of a price. And I'm not sure what I can do to help, but we as a nation should get together and really look hard at this problem and somehow educate us on what to look for, what questions to ask. Take it personally. Even though you may not know this individual and what they've been through, they may be thinking about saying, I've had enough of this. You know, I'm going to end it. And that's not good. That's not good. So that's about the only I can think of left that I could say that we as a country, as a nation, should do to try to help these people as best we can. But most of us are ignorant of what to look for, and what to do, and what to say, and how do you react? You know, how would you seek out these individuals and know them by their actions or their words, if they're really serious about this, that they're going to end it, or they're just maybe talking about it because they're reaching out for help. You know, is this guy going to do it tomorrow, or is this guy just saying, well, if I had some help, maybe I won't do it. We need education. That's the country does. Now, how we do that, I'm not certain. I just don't know. There it is.
Thank you. Final question. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will hear and view this interview?
Future generations. Well, at the cost of sounding redundant, we won't have a country unless someone's willing to fight for it. So I would tell future generations to think about it, prepare yourself. It's not a bad life being in the military these days because it pays a lot better. There's a lot more technology involved, so obviously you'll need a better education, and you will get more of an education in the military. It's been my experience, people who hire would rather hire a veteran because they've kind of been through it, so to speak. They'll show up on time, they'll dress like they're supposed to, they'll follow orders, and they have the experience or are willing to learn what they need to do. They have the self-discipline, and there's lies the keys. If the future generations is lacking the self-discipline, we're in trouble, big time. So there will be a few willing to fight for the many, and hopefully we continue on for a long time, and the land of the free and the home of the brave continues on. That's
Again, thank you so much for your service and your time today.
okay.
We're going to conclude this interview here with Donald Hudson at Wright State University. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.